Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Michelle Graff, and I'm the editor-in-chief at National Jeweler. I'm pleased to welcome you to the latest episode of My Next Question, National Jeweler's new webinar series sponsored by RDI Diamonds. Today's session is hosted by our senior editor of fashion, Ashley Davis, and features Severine Ferrari of Engagement 101 and Shelley Brown of The Knot. Before I turn it over to Ashley to get the webinar started, just wanted to let all our attendees know that if they have a question, they can type it into the Zoom Q&A box you can see at the bottom of your screen. I will be back on at the end of the discussion to facilitate the Q&A. Also, today's session is being recorded and would be available on the National Jeweler website this coming Friday, December 18th. Now I'll turn it over to Ashley and her guests to get the webinar started. Thank you so much.
Thank you for that introduction, Michelle, and hi, everyone. I'm so excited to have Shelley and Severine here with us today. As Senior Fashion and Beauty Editor at The Knot, Shelley Brown knows bridal fashion is about so much more than just a white dress. Shelley contributes to both The Knot magazine and TheKnot.com and makes it her personal mission to keep up with the latest trends, from non-traditional engagement rings to bespoke accessories. She holds an MA in journalism from New York University, and she lives in New York City. Severine Ferrari is the editor and founder of Engagement 101, the online consumer magazine and digital platform dedicated to helping couples plan their engagement. Diversity, inclusivity, and successful trend forecasting are the pillars of Engagement 101, which will celebrate its 15th anniversary in 2021. Since 2018, Engagement 101's Proposed To initiative and growing community have helped raise awareness of the growing number of women proposing back or first. Welcome, ladies. It's so great to have you.
Hello.
Just to start off, I would like to take a really kind of macro look at what's going on with weddings right now before we delve into the nitty-gritties of jewelry. So this year we've seen all manner of COVID impacted weddings, from postponements to masked weddings to couples going to City Hall, or people actually just going ahead with the large weddings that they had planned like COVID didn't exist. So what can we expect for weddings in 2021?
Well, Shelley, I think you're the one who can tell everybody.
I'm happy to take this. So I think, you know, in 2020, The Knot coined the term the mini-moni, which is this idea of a very small and intimate ceremony that takes place either in lieu of a larger wedding or first before a postponed celebration, and oftentimes virtual. I think that we'll continue to see mini-monis throughout 2021, at least until we have a kind of a better grasp of what's happening with COVID, because there is so much uncertainty, I think, right now. And also things tend to change drastically by region. And I think overall health and safety will continue to be really important to couples hosting weddings. So whether that means having, you know, very small, more intimate gatherings, or, you know, hand sanitizer stations, giving away masks as favors, are trends that we saw in 2020 that we think will continue on into 2021. And we think that also there will be a spike in weekday weddings in 2021, because couples who postponed from 2020 had to shift their date. And oftentimes, you know, venues and other vendors were not available. So now, you know, Monday weddings are going to become much more popular, kind of as people have to shift their idea of kind of what their wedding looks like, if that makes sense.
Okay.
And just to add, you know, like that, because I'm more on the engagement part, that this has led to longer engagements, you know, to people saying, you know what, maybe I don't need to get married next year. Maybe I can wait one more year. So, and the advantage of that is that they're enjoying the engagement period a little bit more, because they're not focusing on the planning of the wedding right away. So that's what I've been seeing.
Okay. And then how have these times been affecting proposals? Are we overall seeing people proposing less and putting marriage off, or kind of the same amount, or a decline? And what kind of trends are you guys seeing?
If I can start, if that's okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, like it's actually, there's been a boom in engagements, especially at the beginning of the pandemic, or, during, the spring, because I think, like there were a combination of situations. First, a lot of times in straight relationships, the guy buys a ring and it takes, him sometimes, a month before he gets his act together to propose, or, he's nervous, or he thinks, am I making the right decision, like this kind of thing. So with, the pandemic, they had the ring. So instead of waiting, they decided, well, I'm with this person, let's get engaged. And then, when there was that, summer, it was a reprieve in some states, second wave. But people were able to go out a little bit more, or to get out of their house to plan, even if they were intimate, to plan hiking proposals, so like maybe hire a photographer to help out. So there's been still engagements over the summer. And obviously this engagement, this holiday season is like pretty big, and we're expecting it to be at least as the same as regularly, but maybe a little bit more.
Yeah, and I think to kind of build off of Severine's point, so the Knot is actually releasing our engagement and proposal survey this week. So we're actually going to be releasing it Thursday. So I can give you a sneak peek of some of the stats that we found, which is super fascinating. So so we surveyed 5,000 couples. So 83% of respondents said that they felt it was super important to create a highly personalized, like very special engagement or proposal, as opposed to 75% of respondents who said that in 2019. So I think 2020, as to Severine's point, we've actually seen kind of a spike in engagements, and also this idea that your proposal, even though there are these new restrictions and limitations, should be something super special.
That's so interesting. I guess one can imagine maybe part of this is just that when we're more laser focused on certain things, since there's less going on in our lives. So maybe that just shows kind of consumers investing even more in sentimental moments, right, and kind of taking greater stock in that. That's really interesting.
Yeah.
So now to get a little bit more into the jewelry, what are you guys seeing trending? What kind of metals, what kind of stones, and overall trends?
You want to start, Shelley, or?
Yeah, I'm happy to start. So some more stats from our survey, some more sneak peek moments for you. So we're finding that engagement rings, white metals are still far and away the most popular choice. It makes up over 50% of what our respondents said. However, yellow gold continues to trend pretty strongly, as does rose gold. So those colorful metals are still going super strong, and they continue to kind of gain popularity year over year as we do this survey. And then if we want to get into stones, diamonds are still also far and away the most popular choice. But we have seen a spike in moissanite, sapphire, morganite, and surprisingly aquamarine. So 6% of our respondents said that their ring was aquamarine, which was kind of surprising actually when you think about it. Like that's a pretty decent number for a stone that's not necessarily usually associated with bridal jewelry.
So totally in agreement with the metals. For me, I think the big change is that every kind of center stone works. So, from when it's the diamonds, we're seeing also more like fancy shapes, or alternative to diamonds, like to white diamonds, like rose cuts, also, like gray diamonds, diamonds that are maybe not perfect. So there's this, and then the shapes also, there are hexagonal shapes, there's obviously oval, like is one of the fancy shapes that has been the most popular, but they're also picking marquee, they're picking a lot of different, options, emerald. So when it's a white diamond, and then, gemstone, color gemstones, sapphires, there's also a trend of Montana sapphires, which are mined, like in the US, and are more like a teal green color. And I think, because sapphire comes in so many colors, it's a great option because of the durability and the hardness compared to other stones. And also definitely moissanite, because you know, there are some couples that can't, you know, some women that still want that big size and can't afford like a 3-carat diamond. So they go for moissanite, hoping that maybe later they'll be able to, it's not that they give up on diamonds, it's more, you know, that they want that big look and they can't afford it, you know, right away.
Okay. And then are you ladies finding that a round brilliant diamond is still the most popular cut overall, I imagine?
Yeah, according to our survey results, yes. However, oval has now overtaken princess cut as the second most popular, which was very not surprising necessarily, but interesting to see. And yeah, and Severine is absolutely right. The fancy shapes continue to kind of grow in popularity.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's coming from the fact that women want something different. Women are very involved, you know, like I think we're going to talk about it later, but they're very involved in the design of the ring or picking the design of the ring. And they're really, you know, like a lot of them don't want the same thing as their girlfriends or other people. They want something unique. So what's more unique than a fancy cut diamond? Because the ratios are different, you know, like there are so many shapes. So it makes it, you know, very unique.
Okay. And then what about wedding bands? What kind of trends are we seeing there? And is anything interesting happening with men's wedding bands as well, now that we're seeing kind of, you know, slowly men in interesting jewelry kind of creep into the mainstream, like through fashionable people or celebrities and stylists?
So for women wedding band, you know, there's one trend which is to build more like a wedding suite. So, you know, where you gonna have different, you know, like you have your main band, but then you're gonna stack, you know, like other bands. And sometimes, you know, like, I mean, you add a tiara or a chevron, you know, shape, you know, which is going to be more organic. So I think that's the big trend that I've been seeing, you know, with women. And then more unisex, you know, like styles, you know, like of wedding bands, you know, that can work for guys, but also can work, you know, like in, you know, like in more gender fluid, you know, like, you know, like people, you know, like that, you know, like don't want to identify with a specific look or gender. And definitely, so I would say the big change for wedding bands in guys is that because of COVID, you know, they have more time to pick the bands. So they're a little bit more, and with, yes, the overall trend of, you know, like men's jewelry being more popular, it used to be an afterthought, you know, something last minute, but, you know, because they have time to plan the wedding, now they have longer engagements. They've been looking at their, you know, like at finding a ring for him, you know, and spending more money, and maybe also wearing that ring before the wedding, you know, like already.
Which is almost more like in the essence of an engagement ring, just kind of like signifying the union beforehand.
And it's also because if they purchase it earlier and not last minute, it's in the house. So, you know, like, why not wear it? You know, that's what, you know, the feedback that I'm getting from, you know, real couples.
Yeah,
very interesting.
Yeah, we've also seen a spike in men's engagement rings, that whole concept of wearing it before the wedding day, which we love. And also to Severine's point, I think statement bands are really having a moment, and that can be unisex or not, like the reimagined, you know, cigar band that's really blinged out, or the reimagined signet ring that can kind of, you know, that does work for non-binary people and does have that kind of cool unisex vibe is definitely something we're seeing. And also, I think kind of also getting away from the idea that your engagement ring and your band have to match, like that you can't necessarily wear a statement band on your right hand and your engagement ring on your left hand, or swap them out, or kind of, you know, like not really having this rigid approach to like a bridal set, and building a more interesting bridal suite, as Severine was saying, or just, you know, having a statement band in lieu of a traditional engagement ring altogether.
It kind of feels like all of the rules are going out the window, and it already felt like that just kind of in every approach to weddings, whether it was the jewelry or whether it was the kind of wedding. We kind of saw that it was all about personalization, but now I just have this feeling as if with COVID, it's kind of thrown any leftover rules out the window.
Absolutely. Yeah. We see it in the way that people even execute their mini monis. You know, we see brides who wear the ball gown and do the whole thing in their living room, you know, because that's what they want to do. And, you know, and then also brides who will go and buy something off the rack, and, you know, because that's what, you know, that's what they want to do. I think it's really just dependent on what the couple wants. And I completely agree. I think COVID has really put people in a position where they are reprioritizing, and, you know, and they're really, you know, they're making the most of their moment, even though it's different perhaps than they imagined. I think they really are in many cases tossing tradition and just, you know, kind of doing what feels personal to them.
I've also, on the note of men and engagement rings, I feel like I've noticed more male same-sex couples having engagement rings before the weddings and like having a matching engagement ring, not just a wedding band.
Yeah, definitely. I think, like for same-sex couples, what happened is that once all the laws, in every state came through, people rushed to the altar, because, it was so new and it was so exciting. And now that it's the law of the land, they're taking more time, for the engagement, including to have fun, with the engagement rings. So, that's definitely happening.
Okay, awesome. And I wanted to talk a little bit about how people are shopping for rings today. Are people still getting surprised? Are people shopping together? Are they taking a hand in the design of the ring?
I'm sure Shelley has stats.
It's that fabulous not survey. We love it.
I do have stats. It was 72% of proposees said that it was that designing the ring and being involved in the research for the ring was a joint effort. So it's not really about it being a complete surprise anymore. I think it's like around 20% said that the proposal was a complete surprise to them, and the ring was also a surprise. So yes, definitely a joint venture. And I think now, even too, during times of COVID, when you're kind of with your partner at all times, I think it's a lot harder to kind of execute things secretly. And I think it has led to more open conversations, more open discourse, and certainly, as proposals do spike, I think this is something that's top of mind and something couples are collaborating on more and more.
And also, I think we're seeing more couples living together for a long time before getting engaged. And, in a lot of cases also already sharing finances or making plans, like financial plans. So even though it's kind of a secret, I think, she also knows the budget or the approximate budget in a lot of cases because she manages it with him. It's, an equality, couples are equal. So I think, they're involved in everything now, both, the partner who is the proposee is involved.
What about with Propose To, Severine, which also has been, I feel like since you launched that, recognizing people who propose back to their partner or women who propose first, I feel like that has just, you were obviously very on the forefront of recognizing that, and I really feel that it's exploded.
It has exploded, and it's the beauty of Instagram. It's the beauty of seeing, different, so seeing, it started with fashion, seeing plus size bodies, different, beauty type of beauty, different, lifestyles. So, and I think it's an extension of that. Is that I knew it was happening when I launched the Propose To initiative. Sorry for the phone. So the Propose To initiative, it was, hold on, let me try to get it to the machine. Sorry. So, it was, I only found 5, women that were okay to, share their stories. And then, and then when you started posting stories, because, we posted about it, then more women come forward and it gives the idea to more women to do it. So I think, that's the power, the positivity of social media is that, when you see it, you want to do it, you want to emulate it, and you think that it's okay. And people, gather around who are of the same mind, gather around it. But it definitely has, exploded more this year, yes.
It really seems to normalize things. And I do think that, like you said, just mentioning, showing different kinds of models, for example, I really do think it's in every arena, people are craving and, well, at this point, really demanding diversity. So,
and I think, both
for a bridal shoot, or,
and the not when they change their name to Are They Asked? And, us, also showing more same-sex couples, it's also something, that has pushed more, jewelers, I've noticed, to share same-sex couple stories also, for example. So I think, it's everybody influences each other on social media, and it's also pushed couples to share their stories because they feel comfortable to be on the not page, on our page. And then, they feel comfortable sharing their stories with not only, I would say, LGBTQ publications. So, I think, that's also something that has changed.
Yeah.
I've even seen it with the way, jewelers, offer sizing, that now it's extended sizing for rings that are considered, typically feminine or typically masculine. And that's been a huge shift because that, that did not exist. Even when I started with the knot 7 years ago. Right. So, and a lot of, lines now, touting that they have non-binary options, touting that they have unisex rings, where that really was not a conversation even 7 years ago. So I completely agree. I think the consumer is demanding diversity and is demanding this breadth of options because they want to be represented, right? And representation is so important. And I think that's, a huge takeaway from 2020 in general.
Yeah. I agree. Yeah.
I do too. And then, so a question everyone wants to know always when it comes to engagement rings is how much are individuals or couples shelling out for their wedding bands and engagement rings? And I'm also curious, are couples kind of splitting the bill on this, or does it fall traditionally to the person who is proposing?
Oh, that's a good question. So I can give you the cost stat. I don't know that we, at least in the data that I have, that we did a deep dive into who paid. So I have that the average cost of an engagement ring, and this is a national average, so keep in mind that this varies a lot by region, is $5,500. And the average female wedding band cost is $900. Average male wedding band is $500. Again, a national average, not representative of, regional breakdown, but that's what we found.
Okay.
For 2020.
So, I mean, those figures seems right. There's obviously a market for lower price point and higher price point. So that's the average. And definitely, yes. That's still the hidden secret that some women pay for their engagement ring or for a portion of their engagement ring. Because, there are situations, couples, where the woman is earns more than, like her, like a boyfriend or partner. And so, and she wants a ring that's going to represent, like her, what she wants, and what she wears the rest of the time, like, etc. So, it's still a hidden secret. But I think, there's definitely more of planning the engagement ring cost together, because, like people don't hide their finances that much anymore. If you're in a long time relationship, you don't have the hidden stash, like that, so, it's kind of out in the open. When it's a more traditional couple that just moved in together after they get engaged, I guess, it's still, like the guy pays 100% in most cases.
And then also just seeing so many couples who finance their weddings themselves and kind of plan it according to their finances. It just seems like it would almost be past the point where one person would pay for the ring. It almost feels like it would be transitioning to that, though I do agree that it's not really something people talk about. But really paying for the ring feels almost symbolic at a point when then both couples are probably, okay, how are we going to budget for this honeymoon we want or this wedding we want?
And knowing also that the woman is very involved in picking the ring, she's the one who made those decisions to get moissanite, to get alternative, gemstones that are a little less pricey than diamonds in some cases. So it's coming from a woman's rationality of, that's the budget, and I don't want you to spend, like all, like your money on a ring. I'd rather, we get the ring, that we can afford now and maybe upgrade down the road. I think, like you can feel that in the choices of, alternative, center stones. I think, that's coming from, a decision around the budget.
Yeah. And then is that where lab growns are coming into play in a budgetary aspect?
Definitely. I mean, there's still, people that think they are more sustainable, and some of them are, but I think the price, especially, like the prices have been going down, like in the past couple of years. They used to be just, like a small difference, between, natural diamonds and lab-grown diamonds. And now that the prices are, like much more affordable, I think, yes, it's part of the decision of, because they have a limited budget, they spend it more in the setting or in other things that they have to purchase. It's going to be interesting because I know Shelley just showed, some stats, but maybe we'll get some stats for the whole year, like with, like where we're going to see that the price went up, from last year, because maybe some people had more money, even if some other people have been struggling. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, the price actually it certainly didn't go down. And I actually had the same question. I was curious if because people, are spending time, less on weddings, less on travel, less on, other aspects of their lifestyle, kind of, because they don't have a choice, if that would change, their spend on fine jewelry because, they have the resources.
Yeah.
Also, one part I just noticed someone asking in the chat, and which I had actually meant to ask as part of my previous question, is are couples shopping online for their rings, in store, or both? Both in the process of one engagement ring purchase.
Oh, that's interesting. So we have that 7 out of 10 couples said that the online shopping experience was somehow a factor in their ring purchase, which is, a pretty drastic increase from previous years. And I think that's, obviously because of limitations on, being able to have in-person interactions and, concerns about health and safety, and also stores, limiting appointments. So definitely there was a spike in online shopping. And I think, even a lot of jewelers kind of had to pivot their platforms to have, on-demand customer service, or even doing, like at-home try-on boxes. So that's certainly a trend we've seen. It seems to be a result of COVID. I mean, e-com is obviously, gaining popularity, but I think COVID has kind of really accelerated that because of the limitations it puts on in-person appointments.
And because of COVID, I think also, it's kind of sped up the process of, changing the experience for custom engagement ring and bespoke engagement rings, because they're doing, private appointments, with the designer, FaceTime or Zoom, etc. So they're using, it's not, buying on the website, but they're using digital tools more, to sell, like custom engagement rings, which is, a growing part of the market.
Even pre-pandemic, it seemed that there was a trend of a lot of research happening online before a couple would say go to a jeweler or a designer. So do we feel that kind of actual in-store consultation is still a big part, and obviously keeping in mind that we are making a lot of things as virtual as possible?
I think, it's still, an experience, for people, because it's an important purchase. And, like the process, even for me, like I'm an editor. When I, worked on my engagement ring with, Julie, like Julie Lamb, like the designer, it's a process that's, that's not that fast. And you appreciate being in person, like talking in person with somebody, like, and, like being there, like to ask questions. But, like, obviously, with the, it doesn't mean that it leaves the retailer, without the business, because, they just have to be more proactive, because you can keep in touch with a customer, that has left your store digitally. I think, like it's, if, like it's not, it's not one or without the other. I think now, like both tools have to be weaved in together. So you keep in touch digitally, maybe with the person that came to your store once, or is going to finalize, you start the conversation digitally, and it's going to end up in the store. It's just an additional tool that you can use, like to, contact, to be in touch with the consumer.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think being highly accessible to the consumer, especially digitally, is super important right now.
Okay. We had a bunch of questions roll in even before the webinar started, and then we're going to allow people to also continue to ask questions now. And that's usually the best part, is getting to those. So before we turn it over to that, I'm curious, during such an unprecedented and unusual year, what is the most kind of interesting takeaway that you're taking from 2020, just relating to weddings, proposals, or jewelry?
I think, like it was what we were discussing earlier, that, like with things happening, that are scary outside. It makes you, as you were saying, laser focused, or like more focused on what is really important in your life. And I think, some people, it's been a discovery for some people, some positive, some negative, like about, what their strengths are, what their flaws are, if their relationship is important, not, like if it's a flawed relationship. I think, that has been the big, I would say, lesson. So obviously, we celebrate relationships, with engagements and weddings. So that has been part of it, like it's, like you're sure, you're more sure or not sure whether, you're going to be with that person for a long time, hopefully a lifetime.
Yeah, I mean, I would say I completely agree. I think people's, priorities have definitely shifted kind of inward. And I also think that, especially like we've just been so amazed by people's ingenuity, like the idea that people, have these amazing Zoom ceremonies and, we're really all about this idea that love is not canceled, and seeing people kind of follow through with their plans, in the face of really great odds, I think has been really amazing to see.
I think I've also been touched by, the couples I know that have just wanted to get married and just said,
yeah,
oh, well, with my perfect ceremony that I dreamed about, it's not really about the perfect ceremony. And I just really want to start my life with this person. That's actually been really heartwarming this year.
Yeah,
and I'm definitely taking the aquamarine nugget with me, because I wouldn't have guessed that's kind of coming up as an alternative stone. I think that's
that was very surprising. Yeah, but it's happening.
Good.
Okay, great. Well, we will turn it over to Michelle now so that she can facilitate some questions for us.
Okay. Thanks, Ashley, Severine, and Shelley. That was a really great discussion. I think my main takeaway was, we talked a lot all the time about how, people aren't as bound to tradition anymore when it comes to wedding engagement rings. And I really like, Severine, it might've been your comment that everything's like all the kind of remaining traditions just went out the window this year. It's just kind of like people are just whatever goes, however you want to get married, whoever wants to propose, whatever the ring is, who's wearing the ring first. And I love that.
Guy is just whatever.
Yeah, whatever. Anything goes. As a reminder to our listeners, you can still type questions into the Zoom Q&A box, and I will try to get to as many as possible. As Ashley mentioned, we had quite a few come in beforehand. While we give you a little bit more time to enter your questions, I just wanted to say a quick word about our sponsor, RDI Diamonds. RDI Diamonds, the selection you want, the quality you need. Thousands of diamonds, that's just the beginning. RDI offers a wide range of services and support to help you succeed. From flexible memo options, a partnership with De Beers Group Industry Services, to generous stock options and cost-efficient shipping. RDI's goal is to provide the highest quality of both care and diamonds to your store. Visit rdidiamonds.com today to learn more. That's rdidiamonds.com. And thanks again to them as our sponsor. So I'm going to dive right in here with the listener questions. Somebody wants to know, and this is specifically to you, Severine. You mentioned sapphires earlier. Now, as a center stone trend, I'm going to assume they want to know, did you mean white or colored? And I thought by your answer, maybe you meant colored, but I'm going to let you address that directly.
Well, overall, it's more, they're attracted to sapphires because of the color, I would say. If they find out that they come also in white, like I'm sure they're gonna, some people might be interested, but I think it's the color that attracts, like for sapphires, the variety of color, from teals to dark blue to light blue to pinks, so it's I would say, it's the rainbow of color that they come in, that's attractive first. Because there are a lot of options with white, like from, mine diamonds, like to white diamonds, to moissanite, so I think, the sapphire appeal is the color.
Okay. All right. Thank you. And we had somebody ask this, which I thought it was a pretty interesting question. This didn't come up, but what about the pearl for engagement rings? I know Emma Stone, we wrote about her. I think that was this year, but I have no sense of time anymore. Getting engaged with a pearl. And when I posted on LinkedIn, there was a lot of conversation about that. Is that something people are interested in all? And have you seen that as a trend? Sometimes we know when a celebrity gets married, sometimes that can spark a trend if they have something for an engagement ring that's very untraditional.
I think we've seen pearl, especially bridal and pearl kind of have a connection naturally. I think we've seen an uptick in kind of all pearl jewelry, like, the modern pearl, the reimagined pearl, baroque pearls being super popular. I don't know that pearl engagement rings in particular are trending because of Emma Stone, but I think the interest in alternative center stones in general is certainly a strong trend that will, I think, continue and kind of become, a standard. So I'm sure there is, probably a small interest in pearl as it relates to being an alternative center stone.
Yeah, I haven't seen any interest from real people, for pearls. I have seen softer stones being picked, like I think turquoise and even opals, so people are going for not caring about, they know that they're fragile and they're, maybe not going to wear that ring all the time and they know about it. So that trend overall, yes, I'm seeing it, where, they know, it's just a special occasion ring and they pick a softer center stone for whatever sentimental reason or because they like it. But specifically a pearl, I haven't seen one person submitting a story with a pearl, so I don't know.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. I want to stay on this topic a little bit. You talked a little bit about, the interest in kind of alternative shapes, and Ashley asked about the round, brilliant kind of still being the top choice. But can we talk a little bit? Another listener wants to know, can we talk a little bit more about trend and shapes? I think what they want to is a ranking of kind of like, the traditional shapes, round versus cushion versus oval. Shelley, is that something you have from your survey?
I guess it is. So
I suspected it might be.
She has the goods.
I know. I was so excited. I literally just got these like this morning, and PR was like, listen, we're not releasing this, for a couple of days, but like, we'll give you these nuggets. And I was so excited every year. I was like, thank you. Anyway, so yes, so 43% of respondents went with round, and then oval was second with 15%, princess 13%, cushion 9%, and then pear was at 7%. So I'm guessing marquee was even less than that, and other kind of,
and even emerald, yes, I guess, emerald also. And I would say, so these are the big names, but there's also a really interest, in the alternative market. It's always good to have, to have a few alternative options for hexagonal diamonds, diamonds with weird shapes, with weird unique shapes. So it's something, maybe they don't qualify as being one category, but I think there's an interest for them, including also emerald cut and Asher cuts. It's still, they're still popular stones.
Okay, thank you. We've had 2 questions come on during the Q&A. This first one is, one listener wants to know if you can address the bridal trends in fashion jewelry. And I'm assuming what they're meaning is, what kind of jewelry are women or men wearing on their wedding day?
Yeah, I mean, I think kind of to our earlier point about the importance of, personalization and customization and tradition kind of going out the window. I don't think there's this prescriptive idea of like bridal fashion jewelry anymore, where, you have to be wearing a matching necklace to matching earrings to a tiara. It really is whatever works for your personal style. So, I mean, we see a lot of statement earrings, we see a lot of statement headpieces. I think statement headpieces actually will continue to trend. I'm not saying this only because I'm wearing a headband, but I think that they will catch on and continue to trend kind of as ready-to-wear fashion trends, fashion jewelry trends really do start to kind of dictate later on what goes on in the bridal space. Because again, we're in this really non-traditional time where, if you want to, layer necklaces and, to use Ashley's term, have a neck mess on your wedding day, you can do that as well. It really is, it is whatever feels personal to you is what we see.
Severine, any thoughts on that?
No, I think she's totally right. It's, as I was saying, everything goes, and, they want something different. They want something that's them, and that's also, unique. So, it totally, what, Shelley was saying, as well as Ashley.
And we had another listener who wanted our panelists, can you elaborate a little bit more about extended sizing, which was mentioned, I think, towards the end of the session?
I mean, Shelley, you want to talk about it because you mentioned it, or?
Yeah. I mean, I was just referring to kind of this trend of rings that would typically be rings or bands that would typically be, you know, considered masculine or feminine, having more flexible sizing. So jewelers, you know, offering, you know, typically feminine bands in larger men's sizing and vice versa.
Okay, all right. And I think, you know, like it's, you know, I just read an article that Rebecca Moskal shared on LinkedIn that was exactly about extended sizing and new lines, you know, like offering extended sizing by, I think it's in Coveter. And, you know, that's, you know, been a frustration, you know, like you know, like I'm plus size and, you know, like it's, you know, one of the reasons I have the ring that I have is because I tried a similar design that was in my size. When you try something that's in your size, you buy it, especially, you know, when, you know, you're, you know, in the size frame that, you know, is not represented everywhere. I think, you know, the impact of having something that fits you is very important. And because now, you know, like a lot of manufacturers have replicas of rings, you know, that are in the stores, not the real live merchandise, it's something that they have to keep in mind because it's not a lot of extra cost to have, you know, different sizes instead of having just one size. And they think that because it's one size, it's going to fit smaller fingers. Even the people with smaller fingers, if it's too loose, you know, like it's not, they're not going to, you know, like it. So I think, you know, like having, you know, a few more ready to wear size because, you know, you have a silver replica that's with a CZ, it doesn't cost that much money. And it's, you know, like if you come out, you know, with a line that has that in a, you know, and you're a larger manufacturer, it's going to be very successful.
Yeah, I think we see a lot of designers and brands too coming out with the expandable rings. So it's a ring like, because some women will complain that, oh, I had a baby and now my hands are bigger and like my wedding band doesn't fit like it used to. And I think it's all part of the, which everyone alluded to earlier, the trend towards more inclusion and making sure everybody is represented in how things look and how things fit, not just kind of this very narrow set of society.
And it's basically, it's good for, you know, like society to think like that, but it's also good for business, you know, like, because, you know, we're, you know, here to talk with people that make a business out of selling jewelry. And, you know, you want to cover all your bases, you know, you don't want anybody to come to your store, or if you sell online, to come to your website and feel that they're not represented, because you lose the sale to somebody that is more inclusive.
Yeah, exactly. We had one of the first questions we had when we came on, we had a request from one of our listeners for Severine and Shelley and Ashley, I believe, to share their email addresses in the chat. If you feel comfortable doing that, you can drop it in there. And Ashley's email address is on nationaljeweler.com. You can also.
So I just put it in the chat, you know, basically.
Yeah, you can drop it in the chat there.
Okay.
One of our listeners asked for that.
Okay.
So another listener wanted to know, and we touched on this a bit, but it's a little bit more of a specific question. What role do you see lab-grown diamonds playing in bridal in the next 5 to 10 years?
I mean, my opinion is that, you know, there's room for lab-grown diamonds as being a more affordable option, you know, with the same, the same specs as diamond in terms of durability, of the way they look, you know, the way they feel. So I think it's just, you know, a more affordable option, and it's going to be a more affordable option for people who want size and can't afford it, and or people that, you know, want to postpone, you know, like a bigger purchase on the engagement ring and are using it as a place setter.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that lab grown will continue to be kind of a trend and a factor going forward too, for basically all the reasons that Severine just said.
Yeah, it's the price, you know, it's a, you know, because I mean, obviously, you know, like mined gemstones, you know, are sustainable more and more, you know, like they're making a real effort in showing, you know, where they're coming from, who mined them, who cut them, you know, like, etc. So the fight is not going to be around sustainability, you know, like in 5 years from now, it's still going to be around the price.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent observation, Severine. And just like you mentioned with moissanite, it's about, I want a 2-carat diamond, but I can't afford a 2-carat natural diamond. So I'll go moissanite or I'll go lab grown, because if the size is really what you're after, not everybody has the budget for a 2-carat natural.
Yeah. And it's, you know, it's okay to mix, you know, it's my French, you know, like in France, we mix faux jewelry, you know, custom jewelry and, you know, fine jewelry with no problem. I know here sometimes, you know, like it's a, you know, like it's looked upon, you know, badly, but, you know, like it's so, you know, you see people that have a setting that has, you know, like mine diamonds, and for the moment the center stone is going to be a moissanite just because of the size and budget issue. So I think it's not that they are pro lab-grown diamonds. It's just, you know, like not, some people want the big look and just, you know, like can't, you know, afford it.
Right. They don't have the big budget.
Yeah.
We have someone who wanted to know, today are you seeing more engagement rings being customized rather than bought from the case?
That's true. That's totally true.
Yes.
Yeah. Because they want something different. Even, you know, like if you talk to design, like I was talking to Sylvie, who is a manufacturer, bridal manufacturer, and she was saying sometimes it's just the most minute detail that they're going to change, but it's going to make them feel that it's their own, you know, basically. So it doesn't have to be a big change, but sometimes it's just, you know, like they're, you know, changing the side stone, or they're changing, you know, like something very minute, but it makes them feel like, you know, it's something special.
Yeah, I'm also interested to see jewelers kind of go into this like quasi custom space where it's kind of, you have like a set number of options available that you can choose from, and it feels like, you know, you're kind of changing up and personalizing, but it's not fully bespoke. I think Sylvia actually has a similar platform on her site that she launched recently, which is what made me think of that. I know Jean Doucette launched something similar. So kind of the feel that you are creating something that's your own, but it's not fully bespoke. You know,
and you know that in the wedding, you're coming from the bridal, because I used to, you know, like be in, you know, bridal fashion, and it's been going on for wedding dresses for a long time, where people switch the top, you know, with the bottom of a dress, so they feel like they're designing a new dress, but it's just, you know, they're mixing two different dresses together, you know. So, and for the manufacturers, they know that, you know, like 50% of people are going to do one way, you know, 30% are going to do a different way, and maybe it's not what's in the line, but it's, you know, like I would say 95% of the changes are expected, you know, like by the manufacturers, you know, because they know, you know, that, you know, people can, you know, are going to mix and match.
And I do think that Instagram has been really helpful in allowing brands an easy way to show people that they can do whatever they want. Because for a regular consumer, you don't automatically know that you can have something bespoke or change something to make it just the way that you like it, or change it a bit to fit your budget. So I think that a lot of designers are doing a really great job of just showing a custom project, showing how they did something, and that it's possible. And I think that education is just super important.
Or even like launching a core, you know, group of styles, and then having a bespoke option. Like Allison Liu is launching a bridal collection, and she has, you know, like core styles and then a totally bespoke option. So it's like, it's out there, you can have it. But then she also has her own design. So I think that's a really smart approach too.
Yeah.
Okay. We have one last question here. One of our listeners wants to know, what kind of role does symbolism play in engagement rings? And I'll expand that a little bit, like, and wedding bands. Do you see a lot of you know, people choosing options that mean something to them, engraving, that kind of thing? Or do you feel like they leave symbolism and personalization to kind of other jewelry? Because it's a big trend in jewelry in general. I don't know how much it pushes into the engagement ring space.
It definitely is part of the engagement ring and the wedding band even more. I mean, they've been engraving, you know, like secret messages, or, you know, like hiding diamonds, you know, that only the wearer knows where the diamond is, or, you know, like, because, you know, color has been trending a little bit more, you know, adding side stones that are, you know, connected to either the person who is wearing it, or somebody that's, you know, like dear to that person that's maybe not, you know, like alive anymore. Definitely.
Shelley, did you want to add?
No, I completely agree.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much, Severine and Shelley, for joining us today. And thank you so much to Ashley for hosting. My next question is off next week because of the holidays, and we wish everyone happy holidays. But we will return on Tuesday, December 29th at 2 p.m. Eastern. We're going to have a special wrap-up episode that's going to be myself and the other 3 National Jeweler editors, and we're going to be kind of doing a year in review wrap-up kind of the highs and lows of 2020. And you can read more about that and register at nationaljeweler.com/webinars. I just dropped that link into the chat for anyone who's interested. Thanks to everyone for joining us today. Happy holidays to all, and please take care.